Hello everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm doing a DIY journaling book for you. Now they do still have these in the shop at By the Well for God. I will leave my affiliate link down below if you want to pick one up. They are $24.99 and are full of so many things you can use to create a book. You can actually create 2 books with this kit if you do it the way I'm doing it, but I'm showing you that it comes with a book board that fits the Kraft-Tex as well as signatures of some nice heavy cardstock. But I am using this Kraft-Tex only. So I'm going to use the Kraft-Tex, and one of my journal notebooks from By the Well for God, I got set 1. This is to go alongside the Delivered to the Saints kit, but you can do this whenever, and you don't even need to have this kit specifically if you are seeing this in the future. I am just using some Kraft-Tex that is already printed, and I am measuring out kind of where I want this Kraft-Tex to be cut because I don't want all of it because it's going to be too big for my journal. Now I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants, and I don't know. I just kind of wing it kind of. So we're just going with it. And I do cut it a little bit short just because I forgot the seam of the sewing that I'll be doing in the future. But don't worry, I will fix that. I did leave a little bit amount right there. As you see, I'm measuring to make sure that it will fit. But I should have just left a smidge more, but it's not that big of a deal. So I cut that off, and then I'm going to cut this piece of Kraft-Tex in half as well, because I'm going to use that to hold my journal in this little cover. So at first I was going to measure, and then I was like, why not? I'll just fold it and cut it in half, and that works just fine as well. And then I'll just make sure that this still looks good to me, and this is what I want to do with this book. I'm not going to be doing too much kind of fancy work on this Kraft-Tex. You could definitely ink it up a lot. I've done that in the past, but we're going to keep it simple this month. So I am using this seam binding to close my journal, but I want to color it a different color than what it is. So I am using Lost Shadow and the Distress Spray, and also the Distress Oxide Spray. Now my little trick here is to use just a little mason jar or Tupperware jar, and that way you don't have to get your hands all dirty, and you just kind of shake it all up in there. And then I'm going to heat set it while it's still in the jar, and then I'll pull it out with a pencil and make sure that it's good and dry before I attach it to my Kraft-Tex cover. So I am going to be sewing around the edges of this cover, but first off, I want to make sure to add a little bit of Fabri-Tac glue to all those pieces of Kraft-Tex that I want to be held as I'm sewing, because I'm not going to be using any pins to hold these together. I also want to make sure that my seam binding closure is tucked in underneath these little flaps of Kraft-Tex. So I'm just using the smallest amount of Fabri-Tac as I can, because it does get pretty messy a lot of times, and I want to make sure that I have the most amount of room to slide my journal into. And so I'm just using the very littlest amount as possible. So I'm doing that on both sides, making sure that seam binding is underneath. And now we are on to sewing. I am not the most professional seamstress there is, but this is just a simple straight stitch around the edges of this cover, so it's not too bad. I am doing a back stitch to make sure to hold that stitching in place, and I started on the back side of my cover as well, so I wouldn't see that back stitch as much. So I'll just go around this. Now this is a thicker fabric, so you're going to want to make sure to use a heavier needle. I think I have like a jeans size needle in there right now, so that's really good. And you know, I did my best. So there's that right there. Now it's time to shorten up this little journal. So I am going to measure everything out and then use an X-Acto knife. Now if my library were open right now, I'd probably just use their big paper cutter that can cut through like a bajillion layers of paper. However, we are in the middle of the remnants of, the hurricane, and so everything is closed in my town because there's flooding everywhere. But we are safe and good. Actually, as I was filming this voiceover, a tree fell down right behind me. Like I saw it fall down. So kind of interesting. But anyways, I'm just holding my ruler there and using that X-Acto knife. I do get a little bit impatient, and I end up using some Tim Holtz scissors at the end because I was just impatient. But it turns out just fine. I do clean up the edges just a little bit, but as long as you hold that ruler tight and you're not moving that X-Acto knife too crazily, you should get a fairly clean cut on that. And now it's a cute little tiny By the Well for God notebook. It's nice because the staple, there's only 2 staples in these notebooks, and so it actually holds right in the middle of my mini little notebook. So as you see here though, the covers, it was just a little bit too wide because of my seams. And so my thought process is the pages could be a little bit wider than the cover because the cover is going to be hidden anyhow in those little flaps. And so I'm just trimming the tiniest bit off these covers, and that way it can slide into those holders really easily. No one's going to see this cover really anyhow, but now it fits perfectly. It's nice and tight. And there you go. I do decide to come in with a corner rounder and just round these corners. I was actually quite surprised that this corner rounder could go through 2 layers of Kraft-Tex. So I did start on the back just in case it didn't work. But I liked the look of that. And then I will re-put in this little notebook and tie it up, and then it'll be all ready for all my notes. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me over on Instagram at Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I'll try to link everything I use down below in the description, including this DIY kit if it's still available when I upload. And I hope you have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.